2.5 hour window to try to go through some of the main pieces that we're going to have to look at for ultimate budget funding. We're going to start this morning with a couple of presentations from agencies, and then we're going to take a short break, and we're going to move and start working through some of the staff sections. I guess since this is a special called meeting, I should call it in session. Finance is now in session. Mr. District Attorney Hayes Webb, where you at, bud? You are up first this morning.
I've never run a PowerPoint before. So
And Hayes, if you would, work from that podium up there.
We've got about 8 pages of information for y'all. All right, so Councilman Busby had come over a few weeks ago. We were talking about funding stuff, and one of the questions he had was, hey, I'm pretty bright, but still don't know everything out there. So the first two pages of the information show the responsibilities of our office. And quickly, all felony prosecutions in Tuscaloosa County, no matter where they happen, they're ours. We also have thousands of traffic and misdemeanor tickets that we prosecute, and spend an increasing number because of the past couple of years, stuff that typically would have come over here, certain theft cases and other things related to human trafficking, including the prostitution cases. Those all now, by law, go to our district court where our prosecutors prosecute them. All juvenile court prosecutions, that's all misdemeanors, all felonies that occur anywhere in Tuscaloosa County, including in the city of Tuscaloosa, come to us. All condemnations and forfeitures. You know, I think you've had a couple of drug houses that were seized, in fact, right? That's us doing that. Prosecution of non-pay of child support, collection of court-ordered monies, not only for district and circuit courts, but also for the municipal courts, including the city of Tuscaloosa, and then collections related to worthless checks, which is now turned from over $1 million a decade ago to now probably $20,000 a year. And this right here, so when we take our primary function, which is the prosecution of cases, you start up here, watch this right here, top left.
It may not show on there.
So this is the vertical integration of safety, right?
This is, yes, so, and my clicker's not working on your screen. If you look top left, right, this is your investment. Law enforcement, okay? That's the arrest, boom. If you look through that, every other block, except for the very center one that says arraignment, we have no role in arraignment, okay? But if you want a case post-arrest by law enforcement, right, to be concluded, the only way that it happens, every single thing from bonds through sentencing through probation, is our office, okay? Nothing happens without us, okay? So every one of those steps up there, other than arrest, and actually a lot of times arrest decisions, we are engaged with law enforcement as far as discussions beforehand. But that's law enforcement, arraignment's not us, everything else is us. So now, here we come. This is our total budget. This does not include our child support unit, which we are reimbursed by the Department of Human Resources 100%, so we don't include that. Otherwise, this is our budget. $3.6 million for this coming fiscal year, and what you see to show you how is the office run. The office is run very lean, right? Any sort of cuts we have come to payroll because you see our overhead total is $275,000, which is 8% of our total budget. Then we look at our funding sources, okay? We are a state agency, as you all well know. You have absolutely, positively no responsibility to us, no legal responsibility to us whatsoever, okay? Neither does the county, neither does the city of Northport. But so what you see is the green, that is our state funding, so that's 30%. 39%, the bulk of it is what we do as far as court cost collections. That's us right there, that's the 1.4. So then what we're going to be dealing with is the top left over there. What you see is $1.13 million. That is unfunded. Okay, that's the unfunded portion that we're going to be addressing in the next couple of slides. So right here, if you took that, what you see, the 1.13, okay, now this is the 1.13 million that we carried forward. That's this, okay? So if you say, well, the funding has to be made up locally, right? We're not making widgets. We can't go sell things. We can't do better and raise more money. So the money has to come locally. All right, what you see is the green. 71% of our funding, local funding, is coming from where? Coming from the county. 4% from city of Northport, 9% from the city of Tuscaloosa, leaving us that 16%, $180,000, we're gonna call it $200,000 that we need, okay? And we'll get there in just a minute. But you see, that's the continuing deficit after the local appropriations are contemplated. Now, this right here, I want to go back so we won't sit on this for a second. What I'm about to show you is 2017 figures. We have no ability within our office to run like current reports because of our case management system. And interestingly, the stuff that we get from the state, right, is very dated. So if you look here, if you want to go back to crime and where it's broken down by agency or by geographic area, governmental, right, Tuscaloosa versus Northport versus UA, that sort of thing, we've got to go back to 2017 numbers, okay? The point here is just to demonstrate.
We're going back to 2017 numbers.
2017.
To know the spread of crime.
Right, this is a general, where do our felony cases come from? Okay, in general. And I'm sure your numbers have gone down. I am sure that the numbers from the county have gone down kind of across the board, right? Other than violent crime. But so this is just to paint big picture, okay? So right there. City of Tuscaloosa, 68%, the rest of the county about 32%, okay?
That is, the rest of the county includes Northport,
Correct.
everything not Tuscaloosa.
That's everything not City of Tuscaloosa, is 32%. Okay, now, next one is actually current figures, and they're not self-generated figures. The next one are violent crime figures, and they are current figures from 2024 that we got from the Violent Crimes Unit, okay? So this right here is gonna be all violent crime. So here we have, and this is actually broken down. County 27%, 8% from the city of Northport, 61% from the city of Tuscaloosa. Okay? And why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this because this is the work that we do. What's the work we do? What takes our time? What takes our resources? What impacts the community? Cases, criminal cases. And so this is what's taking our time. This is what's hurting the community and where the bulk or preponderance of our time is spent. That's why this is relevant to the funding request. Okay? So here we have 61% of the violent crime is occurring, and this is 2024 numbers in the city of Tuscaloosa. And these numbers are not dropping. The shootings are not dropping, the murders are not dropping, the attempted murders are not dropping. Those numbers are not dropping. These are actually increasing numbers. And if you look at crime statistics, these are increased across the board, particularly in the city of Tuscaloosa. Agency funding, this right here. So here's our ask. And unfortunately, because we cannot, we can only manipulate the data, so the graphics so much. What you see is these are 2023 to 2024. Yellow is 23, green's 24s. And actually it should be 24, 25, I apologize. So that's what we're looking at. The 23, 24 is the greens, the 24, 25s is the yellows, and the 24, 25s is the greens. So you look to the left at the county, they were already giving $650,000 last year by passage of legislation that they supported, and that takes money from them that otherwise would be going to their coffers. 50% of the new service of process fees, okay, as deputies, county deputies go serve papers. When they serve papers, there is a charge associated with that. That charge has been increased significantly. The increase now is being split between the sheriff's office and us. 50% to us. We are anticipating approximately $150,000 new revenue this year. So from the county already giving $650,000, now they've gone to $800,000, which again takes us to where the 71% of our local, the shortfall that needs to be made up by the locals. Northport, there you see 30,000 responsible for very little of our crime, has increased their appropriation to 50,000, is a 67% increase. And not only that, in fact, they're supposed to have in December, a $15,000 additional appropriation to our office, which will make it more than a 100% increase, and that's for capital expenses. And so when we're looking over here at the city of Tuscaloosa, where the bulk of our felony caseload resides, comes from, you've got 100,000 last year, and this is what I wish on the green over there. I want you up, this is the ask, is 2 notches higher than where it is. So over at $300,000 to make up for the shortfall. And if I could have, again, had them make a graph where we could have put little hash marks in there to show what's desired, that's what I would have done.
Hey, you're roughly less between $100,000 and $200,000 short, right? Based on
Correct.
what
The
that's
earlier
saying,
projection.
what your projection is. So, what happens? Just educate me on a yearly basis. What happens when you are short? Is that Do you have to balance your budget? Do you
We don't-
cut jobs, or do you just kind of not? What do you do?
We've, in the past, when coronavirus, we cut jobs, didn't have jobs to cut jobs. We also have had, and this is probably 5 or 6 years ago, but it's happened. We owed, at the end of the fiscal year, we owed $11,000. We had $2,000 literally in our bank account. And I don't mean in our, like the spending account. I mean, in any account, anywhere, we had a total of $2,000 in our office to our name. And so what happens in reality, what happens is we don't have the ability to budget forward and say, hey, how many people can we hire, right? And we just went through it. A lot of people don't know this, and I'm not advertising it because a lot of people were unaware. We literally had no jury trials in the months of May and June of this year. So July is always an off month for jury trials in this circuit, the 6th Judicial Circuit, which is Tuscaloosa County. But this year, we did not have enough lawyers to try jury cases, so we had no jury trials in May and June. So that's the sort of thing that results from not having enough money. And if you were to expand it out, like if we couldn't make payroll, for instance, what would happen is no DAs in the state would get paid, which it's a really, I can educate you more about it, but it's very
What is the
complex.
I mean, I know the budget numbers are different now in the state. We just went through multiple years with record revenues in the state for lots of reasons. What is the state's plan to cure this? I mean, is there a plan? We're spending a lot of other money on that stuff.
And this is the thing, okay? And this is the thing. You know, and I understand, look, this is what's gonna have to happen for the shortfall to be made up by the state, right? If we're not gonna rely on locals, what's gonna have to happen is the state budget for district attorney's office is gonna have to go from like $45 million a year to like $90 million a year, okay?
Basically double.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's
Is that
more than
because
double
all
because our
60
deficit in state funding is actually more than what we're receiving from the state.
But
We're
every
like-
county's struggling with this, right? I mean, in the state, pretty much.
No,
or
it depends. I mean, the smaller circuits and the more rural circuits probably get higher percentage of the state dollars as they're spread, okay? But as far as large areas like this, right? I mean, we're talking now about having a total collective from the locals of about, what, $1.2 million? Okay, so we've got Jefferson County is like 8.8, okay? Madison County, where Huntsville is 2.7, 2.8. These are millions of local dollars. Montgomery County is like 3.5 million local dollars. Mobile County is high twos and just got from the city of Mobile on top of the 2.7, 2.8 million dollars annual already given locally, okay? They just got promised from the mayor down there. I don't know, Mayor, you probably know the number of what they're giving, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to the total of some millions of dollars over the next few years. So that's what it takes in other places to run offices. I've never come in here and said, hey, they have that, so give us this. But you know what? Running around and not having money to be able to say, how can we tell people legitimately we're gonna pay them into the future, right? How many people can we hire? When I first started, it was ridiculous. I had someone, great fella, but over at the sheriff's office say to me, hey, just take your known money, right? Divided by 12, you know, and there's your budget. Okay, well, at the time we were getting $497,000 a year from the state. There was our definite money, okay? And at the time, our total budget was about that was payroll, $2.8 million. Okay, so we'll just take the 497 divided by 12, that's easy peasy. Except that's not the way it works, in fact, right? So clearly what they've done, the state expects, you know, to your point, it's well taken. They clearly have put it back on the locals, you know? But what I'm saying is that the other large metropolitan areas have then taken it upon themselves, and this has been long-standing. Those numbers I've been using are numbers historical. Those aren't new numbers. Those are numbers that they've been contributing since I started, when we started comparing how our office is being funded around the state.
Hey, first of all, thank you for a
Yeah.
very targeted presentation that answers kind of the actionable questions we have. Number two, thanks for pointing out very overtly and clearly, this is not the city of Tuscaloosa's legal obligation. But I want to relate in connection to that. When I first came on council, we were having a building crisis in our police and firemen's pension fund. And the rating agencies were teetering some on, some off on lowering our credit rate for the city. And our position, I'm like, well, we need to point out to them, that's not our obligation. Here's the document, there's the governor's signature. That's not our obligation. And the credit agency's response is, it is your moral obligation, and the consequences of not doing it will fall on you. So I'm sort of, I've gotten hopefully a little wiser about there's what you legally have to do and then what you better do. So thanks for making that point. Number 3, will you go back to that, what I call the vertical,
Like all the way back.
the vertical integration of what it takes from violent event to person not on the street committing anymore. That's ours right there. right?
Correct.
All of this, except for this,
Correct.
is touched by you, right?
Absolutely.
The mayor had a radio interview last week sometime, and where he talked about, we do a good job
Yeah. No question.
of our piece of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, that's costing us a lot.
Yeah.
That moral obligation, not legal obligation, is about to cost us $8 to $10 million a year forever, more. But I think that's a very important slide. I wish more people in Tuscaloosa could see that slide, because it's like when a state highways is in disrepair or something. Why don't you go fix that? Well, it's not ours. And so many of those links in that chain, we, the city staff, the executive, the legislative branch, even the judicial branches, we can't touch that. So thanks for pointing that out. And gentlemen, any other questions, comments anybody wants to get on the table? Again, I appreciate the focus presentation.
I do think, Mr. Busby, there's some good conversations that are happening. There is this is my observation, Mr. Webb may not share it, but I do think there's some good community conversations, that there's awareness that we have an issue here, that if we can't get cases prosecuted, then that creates this backup that you see in the chain. Well, we need this to be a total community solution. There is, last week, Judge Robertson, Ms. Webb, and I met and discussed this issue with the district attorney, and we all have that same grievance. Why are we having to take local tax dollars to fund a state function? Because when we do that, that means we take away from something we're responsible for. Yeah. And then once you do it, the state will never, you will be doing it in perpetuity.
Yeah.
They are going.
Part of that backup you're talking about, Mayor, I think probably is overcrowding in our county jail, which again is not our personal responsibility, but it really affects the community.
Well, you've got DOC who are putting inmates into the county jail that take up available jail space, and then we have to go to Pickens County to go get more jail space. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm hopeful. Not for this budget year needs to be treated in isolation. But maybe in future budget years, we can begin to address the deficits in funding from the state on this, and potentially other. Mental health is certainly another one that is arriving on our doorstep. Because I'm not certain, unless a gambling legislation passes, and then those dollars are then earmarked into, was it OPS? Is that the?
Office of Prosecution Services, that's right.
You're gonna solve this problem in the next 5 to 10 years. And I wish people would call their state legislators, but I don't think that's gonna happen either. They're gonna call us, because when there's a crime, people don't go, you've arrested that person 47 times and convicted them. You know, what they want to know is how are you going to stop that crime tomorrow? And they don't realize the other problem. Hayes, I do have one question on the youthful offender in the juvenile system. If you, with additional funding, is there anything that can be done on that side? Because I don't want to speak for Chief Blankley, but that is one of our frustrations, is that on the juvenile side, we're seeing 12, 13, 14-year-olds
Yeah,
who are committing violent acts, and it doesn't feel like there's any type of correction or punishment. Now, maybe that's a feeling and not a fact, and I will work through that.
Yeah, we had focused so much in combination, you know, with law enforcement. I know that you've been saying this for sure also. A lot of that, I don't look at the juvenile court issues as to the extent they exist. There's clearly juvenile crime, and it's significant juvenile crime, and lots of juveniles are running around literally with machine guns right now, okay? Like literally machine guns, okay? Not what people call assault weapons. These are literal machine
Block
pistols.
switches.
That's exactly right. And interestingly, as I'm going to say as an aside, there's no state law prohibiting that currently, okay? Despite our efforts last year with the legislature. So, but that to me is not really a financial issue. I'm not saying, you know, whoever's out there in the juvenile detention facility, I'm sure would like different things. But at the end of the day, you know, they are being arrested by the same law enforcement officers, being prosecuted by our folks. We have one dedicated person. I'd love to have another lawyer out there because the one that we have is so, Shannon Lynch is very involved. And I would love, you know, at some point, it's a goal of mine that we have 2 lawyers out there, you know, spend more time on each case, right? But she does a great job. I don't see that as a particular funding issue with respect to the, you know, the crime that we're seeing. Law enforcement still getting them off the street.
A question related to the juvenile piece, and maybe a Chief Blankley or Mayor. Are the juvenile crimes, do they show in our statistics, or are they shielded from view as underage, or
No,
what?
sir. When we give you stats about our, you know, robberies, UBD shootings, they are shown in there.
It's in there.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank
It's a collective of everybody.
And Mayor, I agree with your point on the communal, it is a communal solution. I thought Norman's questions that surround the Alabama legislature were hitting around it. Do we have on our legislative agenda, or is there a place for it on our legislative agenda?
There's a broad statement that talks about the funding of general fund services, or the pushing of unfunded mandates is how we term it. I do think in this year's, our legislative push, we need to be more aggressive with our legislators on DA funding, mental health funding. I don't know what necessarily juvenile may say they need, or what they need, frankly, and that may be another discussion. But I do think we need, as a body, to push that, because as you mentioned, Mr. Busby, and you're right, in 27, we make a huge commitment to police and fire, which is deserved.
Which impacts that
Yes.
box.
Yes, and we need to make certain that our state partners are there behind us. I have spoken, Ms. Allman and I met recently about this topic, and she is all in, and she understands, me being on the city council 16 years, she understands and wants to help us. And so I do think some discussions we're having with the 3 local governments too, I think it's time, as much as, I hate saying it, I don't see the state tackling this holistically in the next 5 to 10 years. They might can do one-offs, theoretically. We're gonna have to find a way to do more. Now, how we find that way, Mr. Busby, that will not be easy. But we all may have to give up a little to fund some more into these areas, so that when Brent and his team and Ron Abernathy and his team and Gerald Burden and his team, when they make arrests, they stick. I know that's not a legal term, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
We get the bad guy off the street, and we have some certainty he's gonna be off the street, because right now, when that bad guy gets released on the street, you know how hard it is for us to get evidence? People are scared to give us evidence because they know Johnny's gonna be back on the street in 15 minutes. I mean, Mr. Fell, you know from your days in law enforcement, that is what we're running to. The dominoes that fall behind this are severe, and we all realize, as much as we want to say, state, please do what you're responsible for, legislatively, that's going to be nearly impossible with 105 representatives and 35 senators. But I do think we need to push them. I don't think we need to just say, well, don't worry about it, we'll handle it. Sorry for the sermon, Mr.
No, look, so I appreciate everybody's participation. Ms. Webb, thanks. Again, it was focused. I let it run double time, but it needed to. I appreciate that.
You know, I don't even know if it's, I told you, because I don't have the ability to put it on there. The request is $300,000. That was the last page,
All right,
so
okay.
that was the, yeah.
That'll work.
Yes. And I think when we, because we weren't sure of the other figures when we sent the initial packet over a few months ago. It may have said 350 in there, but we're able, when we see the numbers, yeah, just ask for 300 now. So, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, thanks. Yeah, I've met with a variety of people about these things, so thank you for your interest for sure. And you know, in the future, I hope this is the last year I need to be over here, because like the mayor said, meeting with him, Judge Robertson, Glenda, and I'm hopeful that the governments will come up with kind of a collective solution while the push on the states being.
We also hope it's the last year.
Yeah. So thank you very much for your time. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Ace.
it.
Thanks,
And if y'all have, because they're so, that it is bizarre and not at all intuitive, if you ever have questions about how the funding works, I am happy to meet wherever, whenever, to discuss and delve into any questions you have, okay? So, yeah, thanks so much.
All right, great. Why don't we move right on into the next presentation? Kevin, I believe you're doing Tuscaloosa One Place.
Yes,
Come
sir.
on up and introduce yourself if you would, and tell us
I'll
about.
introduce myself to the TV there. All right, well, good morning. My name is Kevin Besnoy, and I'm with the Executive Director of Tuscaloosa's One Place. Put a packet together there. On the right side, you'll see our annual report. On the left side is a presentation and summary of our ask. Before we get into the depths of it, if you take a look at the first page, I want to say thank you, because over the past 25 years, the city of Tuscaloosa has been a partner with Tuscaloosa's One Place in strengthening the community. This past year, there are 48,000 thank yous, because those are individual touch points that we've had with people in the community, and where our mission is to strengthen families, build resiliency amongst those families, and to prevent child abuse and neglect. And so, if you can take a look at that second or the third page, while we've made a huge difference in the lives of people in our community, you can see that there's a lot of work that we have to do. Overall child well-being, Tuscaloosa County ranks 17th in the state. So how is that measured? How do they come up with that? There's the infant mortality rate, 11.5 of 1,000 births result in an infant mortality. 14% of all births are to a single parent with less than 12 years of education. 34% of children are living in a single parent home in our community. 21% of children are living in poverty. 9% of those are in extreme poverty. And over 1,300 children have been suspected victims of child abuse and neglect over this past year. So while we've worked hard over the past 25 years together to really strengthen what's going on in Tuscaloosa, we know that there's a lot of work that we need to do to continue to grow our community and to continue to strengthen our community. So this past year, the city gave Tuscaloosa's One Place $18,600 in an agency grant. We really appreciate that. And on top of that, about $10,000 in in-kind donations to make Tinsel Trail happen. Tinsel Trail is a community event. It attracts literally the tens of thousands of people, not just for the ice skating rink, but for the community attraction. Heat Pizza does well, we know, off of that event, and so everybody comes in, and it's a beautiful event for us. But the Omni Group, the Omni Institute, which is an institute that takes a look at nonprofit and agencies and how investments in nonprofit agencies what is the return on investment? So what they came up with in 2021, what they discovered was for every dollar that a community invests in a family resource center, they return $4.93. So you take a look at that number, is approximately your investment in, from Tuscaloosa City into Tuscaloosa's One Place yields approximately $98,000 on a return on investment. So what does the city of Tuscaloosa get for that direct $18,600 investment and an in-kind donation of $10,000? What do they get? Well, as I mentioned, our mission is to support families, to strengthen families, to build resiliency, and to prevent child abuse and neglect. And we do that by going into homes, by holding parent education classes, by going around the community and helping to bridge the gaps when families might be, might be struggling. One of the things that we do, Selvin and I were just talking about it before the meeting, we define family in the broadest sense. Because we define family as a group of people who are there for you in your greatest time of need. And then also are there for you in your moments of celebration and success. But we know that people are going to be there when you succeed, but not everybody's going to be there when you have times of need, and who are going to be there unconditionally. And what we try to do is build that network for people, to teach them how to be there for others and to find people who are there for themselves. And so what we have, as you take a turn further into our program, we have multiple programs such as the CHAMPS program. CHAMPS stands for Changing Habits and Making Parents Stronger. This program works with non-custodial parents directly, teaching them how to have a relationship with their children and to build those family bonds. Last year, there were over 103 participants. 25 of those were convicted felons coming out of prison, needing to reconnect with their family. What we do in that program is we pay for them to get more skills, to have a better chance of employment. What we also do is teach them how to balance their financial budget. Last year alone, the program accounted for $93,000 in child support payments. Think about that. We're talking about your tax revenue. You're talking about people contributing to families. Because of this program, the CHAMPS program, 103 participants, 25 were convicted felons coming out of prison, needing help to transition back into society. We resulted in $93,000 in child support payments.
Dr. Beslow?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to stop you when you talked about the felonies, because of the fact we just had the DA to talk to us about the percentages of felony crimes that we have, and what your program does is try to curb it and bring back, just good humanity, to good civic responsibility. I think that there's a seesaw effect, Mr. Busby, in whereas we see the youth for crime is up and need prosecution from the DA, but then if we don't have adequate funding for preventative programs such as this, we're going to continue to get an increase.
Yeah, I mean, so you can talk about our youth program, our teams program. Right. So our teams program, a little further in, our teams program works with the juvenile court system and the Division of Youth Services. Last year we served 50 youth, 30 in our teams program. What they do is they're on monitors. They, instead of going to detention, they come into our program. We monitor their whereabouts, but we also do intensive mentoring for them. And so what we are is, as you mentioned, we were talking about youth who are at a crossroads, right? I mean, if you're 13 years old and you're on an ankle monitor, what kind of crime have you committed? You committed a very serious crime. But a 13-year-old in that kind of situation hasn't created that situation for him or herself.
Sure.
And so what we need are people who can mentor those youth, because they're at a crossroads. We don't want them to end up in the adult court system. We want them to move on. What we were able to do is mentor young people. You can see we have 12 young people are completing high school graduation. We're getting them into jobs. We're sending them into, one young man completed our program and went into college up in Pennsylvania on an art scholarship. So we're mentoring youth, getting them out off the streets and trying to prevent them from being another statistic in your crime reports. In our parenting department, we work with approximately 140 participants. We go into the homes. We teach families in the homes how to create those home situations that are going to strengthen the parent-child bond at an early age, to build that family, to build that resiliency. We're getting people to move from, we have people who move from a two-bedroom apartment with children. They were able to get into those situations, and then learning how to have those moments where they can parent the kind of parenting that we want in our community. We also have a workforce development program. 55 clients completed our workforce development program. 38 on food stamps, and another 17 were on welfare. 43% of those individuals who completed our our workforce development program ultimately obtained employment at a job. One person earned a $40,000 a year manufacturing job. Another person, when they came into our program, she and her brother were living at the Salvation Army. And at the end of that program, she was able to complete a phlebotomy program, earning $19 an hour with benefits at DCH. So again, that's people, we're putting them in, giving them opportunities to strengthen their family and to increase their increase the tax revenue here in the city. Something else that we do as we go around town, we have mobile food pantries. Last year we had 8 mobile food pantries around town. At each mobile food pantry, we provide about a week's worth of groceries in partnership with the West Alabama Food Bank to approximately 250 families at each of those mobile food pantries. And you think about what that means. We all have a family budget and a monthly budget. If we can take a week's worth of groceries out of somebody's family budget, what are they able to pay for that month? They're able to make their utility bills. They're able to pay their rent. They're able to pay their car notes so that they can get to and from work. So we're able to change that family. It's not everybody who is on the system, so to speak. There are working families who need groceries, who, by providing them with these services, we're able to help change their monthly budget. We provided 383 children with Christmas. And then at Thanksgiving, in our partnerships with other people around the community, Piggly Wiggly and Buffalo Rock, we were able to provide Thanksgiving meals to 350 families. So if you take a look at what that investment is in the Tuscaloosa's One Place, last year the $18,600 investment amounted to 0.68% of our budget. And what that means is Tuscaloosa's One Place. What we're doing is we're writing grants, we're going out there and raising money to partner with the city of Tuscaloosa to strengthen the community. But by our ask of an additional $18,600, what that means is the total amount of our budget that you would be contributing to is just a little bit over 1%. But again, remember, the return on investment, for every dollar that you invest in a family resource center, such as Tuscaloosa's One Place, you get $4.93 back on investment. So for $18,600, we made possible touch points for 43,000 people across the community by providing them resources that they need to help with their monthly budgets, to provide parent education services, youth education services, and just overall community building. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Try to get it down to 15 minutes.
We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, any questions or comments somebody wants to?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Desmond, for coming in. My concern is, as I have perused the previous budgets, we have went from a $50,000 investment to Tuscaloosa One Place in 2020, COVID slide, then 2021, well, from 2021, 50,000, 2020, 30,000, and now 18,000. So we have really cut them basically in half from what we've been doing in the past 4 years. And we wanted you to come back. So can you talk about how that has impacted your budget and how it has impacted the services that you're able to give and provide?
Yeah, so the cutting of funding, really where we've seen some of the biggest difficulties for us is being able to serve the breadth of the community that exists here. As we have more and more folks moving into Tuscaloosa, the needs are continuing to grow. And so what we've had to do is, at moments, we're not able to rely on, say, some funds that are in our existence to be able to provide some of these exact services that we need. I know it looks like we're providing a breadth of services, but there are more and more people that are out there that we're not able to serve. There are more and more educational programming that we're not able to provide in a preventative way to help keep people, yeah, there you go, to help keep people from, not being able to make their minimum needs. And so there have been times where we've lost some programming, where we've had to cut staff because we're not able to have that funding. And the area where we see some of the biggest need is in the growing Latino population. You can see all of our services that we offer, but even if we translate our services, our materials into Spanish, we need to be able to have the personnel who can provide those services in Spanish. And so those are some of the biggest areas of need for us.
But I think we.
Hey, Kevin.
We,
How you doing,
we
sir?
forget about, we mentioned the youthful offenders, of D.A. Hayes,
Yes.
but I think, what we fail to realize about Tuscaloosa One Place is the impact they have with partnership with the detention center, actually having them on,
On ground.
ankle monitors.
Yeah,
But
so-
the mentorship program is huge. I was able to be a part of those mentorship programs and seeing the young men, I mean, we digging into them and the family. Just to hear the backstories about how some of them have witnessed, the parents killed in front of them, some leaving and, living alone, living wherever they can. I mean, it's a backstory, but to get them in a transition kind of situation and get them before different people, I think the biggest impact for me when we rode through the new car wash in my district next to Alabama 1, and one of the mentors there working, the guy who skied, he could have gave me a little more soap though. I was a mentor. But no, he was like, hey, I told you I was gonna do right. I was gonna get better, but
Right.
he was working, and that's because the training they get there, and so we talk about the youthful offenders, but this is a place where we try to get them.
The help they need.
Absolutely, and I was thinking about the two neighborhoods. Two of the guys from two different neighborhoods, they was working with us at food pantry at our church, and they were in two different neighborhoods beefing with each other, and they had to work together at the food pantry. And it was sick, and they was 14, 15 years old, and I got that just getting in their business, and they didn't want to take a picture with each other. I said, no, y'all about to take a picture. I took them in there and spoke with them, but they were in the mentor program, and before it was over, they was working with each other. We went to Catch a Taste and ate together. You know what I mean? So it's a huge.
And that's
a big deal, though.
That's our tightest budget is the Youthful Offender Program, the TEAMS program.
Right.
We're able to do a 90-day intensive mentoring program and then follow them for another 30 days.
Right.
What we're not able to do is to continue that mentoring beyond those 120 days that they're in because of funding that we don't have.
Well, again, appreciate what you're doing.
Right.
Mr. Wilson, Mr. Lanier, thanks for getting this one up in front of us.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Don. And hold on, before you, what is your ask? What is your total ask?
It was $37,200.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, we're gonna go into, staff sections, department heads next. Everybody take the kid gloves off. Actually, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll be back in here. What?
I'm good. I love it.
To recess?
One place.
All right, that's one.
Can I have just a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Recess. Have a motion to reconvene?
Motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye. We are back in session. And as we begin working our way through hearing the needs and plans of the staff departments, we'll start with Public Works. Selton, where you at? There we are. Welcome.
I moved this side of the room just to make my journey shorter. Councilor Busby has made the statement that he's now taking off the kid gloves, so I'm taking one for the team to be first up. I would first like to take the opportunity to thank this body for a chance to talk briefly about what we do in Public Works. I think that most of you are kind of aware of a lot of the things, so if I be repetitive on some stuff, my apologies for that, but if I leave out anything, I certainly want to answer any questions.
No, I think as we emerge out of sort of the transition that IPS went through a year or two back, I'd love to hear exactly what you ended up with.
So we take our mission and vision for Public Works directly from the mayor's four core values. And we center our efforts around delivering quality products and doing so with an air of excellent customer service in mind. This means that our expectation, our aim, our strive on a daily basis is to exceed the end user's expectations. When we've done that, we feel like we've done our job. When we've fallen short of that, we want to know it because we feel like we can make those improvements. To support the delivery of these services, we have 110 positions that support that. This chart shows 118. This is our billboard subliminal advertisement. What you don't know is that 118 is blinking. So when I come back to you in future for more positions, you're gonna already remember, oh yeah, they are already supposed to be that size. So, but in actuality, at present, we have 110 staff that support what our service needs are. Those staff are broken up into roughly 4 divisions. Our traffic and transportation division, our streets and drainage division, our fleet maintenance division, and our admin group that runs all that. In our traffic and transportation services, this is the area where you see the signal light maintenance and operation. Is where you see our street lighting operations, is where you see our roadway striping and our signage use. Streets and drainage covers our repairs that deal with asphalt, concrete for sidewalks, curb and gutter, and any of our storm drain infrastructure. Our fleet services provide maintenance, as you can see, for shortly over 2,000 vehicles and pieces of equipment. And our admin staff is that group that pulls all of that together from our contact from Public Works to the City Hall at Link. Interesting note there for what we do, just over 50% of all of the 311 requests come in are serviced by Public Works. So we are excited about the type of work that we do and the way that we go about doing it. To talk a little bit about our budget, annually we generally run about a $12.2 million budget. That is slightly up this year due to the investment in staffing salaries. So first off, and talk about that piece of the equation, I really want to thank the mayor and the council for all of the support that has gone into providing that type of investment in our staff. It has made us competitive with any other employer in the region. So we find that to be very exciting and creating many opportunities for us as we move forward. So I can't say enough about how we appreciate the effort that has gone into that. Beyond those salaries and just a few adjustments here and there, our Public Works operations budget is holding fairly steady. And we consider that a plus. When you think about the tax revenue losses that we are experiencing, and I will not try to explain that. I've listened to the mayor go over it, and I'm understanding it little by little, but I do understand what those shortfalls are. We feel like when we are holding sturdy in this type of climate, it's actually a positive. It's a plus for us not to be regressing. So we know that we've got some opportunities within our group to be more efficient. So this holding sturdy gives us an opportunity to do more with the same amount of money that we've been allotted to work with. So we are happy to be in that frame of reference for where we are now. Staffing wise, we run right now about a 18 to 20% vacancy. That partly is because of some of how the market has been lately. Our vacancies run in our higher skilled positions like heavy equipment operator, our concrete finishers, and some of our construction and maintenance supervisor positions. We are seeing better and larger pool of applicants in those fields here recently, so we are excited about what those opportunities will bring forth. But I would be remiss if I did not say that part of our loan holding vacancies to this point is due to our changing philosophy and who we look for to serve the citizens of our community.
Say that sentence again, please. I missed the first part,
So in addition to just the employer pool that is short, that feeds into our number of vacancies and how long positions stay vacant, another part of that equation is the care we are taking to look at who we are hiring to service our citizens. We are being very particular about that group of people that come and work for the city of Tuscaloosa. We consider this a choice employer, and we consider our services to the community to be paramount. Everything that we do is centered around taxpayer dollars to make it happen, and we take that very serious. And we are looking for individuals who share that mindset of, I am here to provide a service to the people that are paying my salary. So finding those people is not just putting a body in place. So that sort of feeds into
Councilor,
Councilor.
question. I appreciate your comments too. This 110 Public Works Department total that is budgeted, are those actually, will you have 110 employees in that, or is it?
No, sir, I do not.
But this is if you were fully
If
staffed.
I was fully staffed,
If you
I'd
were
have
fully
110.
staffed,
That
you'd
would be
have
the
one.
number.
Yes, and we
But
are,
Where
at
are
an
you?
18 to 20% vacancy rate, you're down 34 from that.
23 to 25 positions is about where we are now. And we have some
85.
of those positions that are pending in interviews and final offers and so forth. So there may be a handful of those that change within the next week or so.
Becky, I just got the 2024 actual numbers. Those are actual numbers through June or July?
Yes, sir, those are through,
June?
possibly mid-July, London, about
Through,
mid-July.
so July's in there.
Yes,
So
sir.
July numbers are, okay.
Yes.
So we've got 2 more months, right? Am I
Yes, sir.
thinking right?
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
that's correct.
sorry, thank you. I meant to ask
You
that
mentioned
earlier.
efficiency. The mayor needs to know this. Recently, a family member of mine pulled out of her subdivision in Rivermont. She called 311. She went to about potholes there. She went to the grocery store. She came back, and the potholes were being filled. So 311 worked very well with y'all, and y'all got somebody out there. I was amazed that you could get somebody out there.
John, for her, great councilman and great staff.
Yes, right. I told her who her she knows her councilman well.
Oh, yeah, she knows
But
me well. She told
Selman,
me.
I'm
She knows-
seriously bragging on y'all about
She
that.
knows
That's
that.
a big
I
deal.
appreciate that, Counselor. We have a great staff. I am fortunate to work with a large body of people who really take their work serious. They are very capable, committed, and they are 100% in on what we are trying to accomplish.
And I give 311 some credit on that.
Well, we give 311 a whole lot of credit because they are the ones that do a whole lot of the facilitating and making that happen.
Mr. Chair, also, I was looking at your short-term and long-term goals. Can you kind of explore that for me, which is on page 150?
Is there something specific that stands out to you, Counselor, or you just kind of want my general feel of where I see the department and how we plan to approach those things?
I would like to deal with two things. One thing is what Mr. Field talked about was excellent customer service as well as the upgrade of the traffic signals.
Okay, so a couple things in terms of our customer service piece. We are trying to make sure that we engage the customer all the way through our operational processes. So when we get, for example, a request comes in through 311, our first point of contact when we get that request is to make contact with that customer to make sure that we actually understand what is being communicated in that request. After we have that understanding, if necessary, that site is reviewed and we decide what kind of game plan needs to happen, and we re-engage that customer to say, this is what our game plan is, this is what we see needs to happen, and here is the projected timetable that we see ourselves making that happen. As we go through that, if anything changes in that process, we are re-engaging that customer to say, here is where we are today. All the way up to the very end of the service is to say, follow up to say, here is what we've completed. How does this meet with your satisfaction? So these are the pieces that we are trying to implement as a standard for how we go about doing our business to ensure that we have that customer service component. What we learn from any customer service interaction from any section of our divisions is translated across the board. So we take anything from one area and make sure it applies to every other area as we learn. The signal upgrade stuff that is mentioned in that is just moving our traffic signal operations and the components in our traffic signal operations to be consistent with those components that are being done by ALDOT. ALDOT is upgrading a lot of their traffic signals to include smart controllers that allows them to collect more data from a point site, decide how traffic is operating at that point site, and make on-the-fly adjustments when necessary. This feeds into our partnership with them specifically for how we address game day operations. As we are moving patrons into the city for that game entertainment and moving them out of the city after it's all over, those routes that they are using, we are very specific to make sure we are utilizing every technology possible to make that an easy transition for people coming in and out of the city.
Thank you.
So,
You know,
yes, Mr. Tyner?
First of all, I could spend the rest of the day telling you how much I appreciate all that you do. It seems like every weekend I call you about something on a Saturday or Sunday, and you answer and you get it taken care of, and you just don't know how much that is appreciated. But what the mayor had in his budget for lighting, do you feel like, I know that's a long process, and it's hard for people to understand once you put the request in, it's really up to Alpine Power how long it takes, right?
Yes.
You think there's enough money in this year's budget for lighting?
So I think the challenge when you say, and first of all, Council, I thank you for your comments, and I'm glad to do all I can in support.
Well, that's obvious.
And I, there are team members that back up the stuff that I bring to you on the weekend. So I want to be clear that it's not just me. There's team members making that happen. In response to the question about the lighting funding, my perspective.
What did we include
What
in
was
the
it?
budget on
I
lighting?
forget, it was
75? 75?
Is it 75?
And so
That's more than that.
So my perspective on the lighting budget, as with all of our budget items across the table, Counselor, my line items, every one of my line items is just one line item of 20 other departments that are doing things that are equally or sometimes even of more importance than what we have. So at every step of the way, we are having to make that decision as to how much can we put in any one place, because the pot is not endless. And I do not envy the position that the mayor and you all are in terms of making those cuts. So what I can tell you is when you all have those discussions as to what your priorities are, one versus the other, and how that shakes out in the budget, we are going to take that and use every possible resource we have to maximize it.
Because I just know from our engineer meetings that we have with me and you and Mike and the others, just recently y'all came back with the recommendation for 6 additional lights in this particular area out in my district. And that was just one. I don't ask that a lot, but that was 6. And so I didn't know, over the course of a year, how many that.
And to look at that, and I do not want to be speaking for Mike's group because they handle a lot of the kind of lighting stuff that you are referring to on that end.
Yeah.
But I will say, Counselor, that it is worth dialing into each of those on a specific case, because all 6 lighting requests are not created equal.
No.
So if, for example, you are requesting lighting in an area that already has a certain amount of Alabama Power infrastructure, there are light poles already in place, there is a power network already in place, the transformer is there to support that extra load, then Alabama Power is installing those lights, and the only additional cost to the city is what that monthly service goes up to be for those individual lights. So in that case, you could be getting 6 lights for what amounts to $250 a month
I got you.
type of thing. The opposite can be true. You
When
can
there's
be
not a
asking
pole.
for 2 lights. And those 2 lights are in an area that don't have any power infrastructure. There's no pole in place. The place where you would want the lighting requires a lone power feed to get to the necessary transformer. All of those things now add to a cost to get that. And you're paying whatever that upfront cost is for Alabama Power to make that infrastructure investment. So it's not necessarily comparing apples to apples. You really have to dial into each case on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. The first thing I ask somebody when they request is, are there poles there without lights?
Yes.
And when they say yes, I said, great.
Yes,
That is a
absolutely.
major difference.
That helps, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I just wondered.
So Selwyn, what's in your slide there? You've got the 118 staff positions, and I know you touched on it, but I didn't. You're currently funded for 110.
Correct.
What's the 118?
So, in all honesty, I think this is just a misprint from information we sent into communications when this slide was made.
Okay.
But now, I will say, Counselor, that would I project us in needing more staff at some point in the future? Absolutely. So I don't want to just.
You would understand if we insisted you fill the ones you have first?
Absolutely, and that has certainly been my approach, Counselor. When I look at our operations on the whole, and I look at how we feed from what happens in the field up to what happens at the highest of management levels, those needs for capacity that happens in between those 2 points, we definitely have shortfalls there. But I do not feel it is responsible on my part to come to you asking for more people when I haven't filled the slots that I currently got.
But 110 is not. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
a few more questions in that area. First of all, an interesting, I don't know if you'd call it a documentary, reporting piece I watched yesterday. Talked about the number of men of prime working age, and they defined that as 25 to 54, who are not in the workforce. That is, they don't show up in the unemployed statistic because they're not out there looking for work, and they don't show up in the employed number because they're not hired. But that number is 7 million men in prime working age, and the number of jobs currently available is 10 million. So I mention that because I expect, I can't quite imagine, I'm so out of touch with the labor market over the years that it sounds like it's really tough. What are you mentioned concrete finishers, heavy equipment operators. What are those your hardest to hire? Or what are your hardest positions to hire and keep filled?
What we really kind of see, Counselor, is kind of a hit and miss on that across the board. There isn't anything that sets to one particular pattern at this point. And yeah, you're right, the positions that we have open now are our skilled positions as heavy equipment operators, our concrete finishers, and we've got now some construction and maintenance supervisor positions available. In terms of just, what our challenges are in finding those individuals, I think it's that the market has been such that there's been a number of people not looking for jobs. What we've seen over the last 60 to 75 days is that pool of applicants that we see for each individual job has grown substantially. 6 months ago, we would post a job and we wouldn't have anybody apply. We are posting jobs now and we have 25, 30 candidates to sift through. Now, 2/3 of those are probably not qualified, but again, it speaks to the fact that that candidate pool is growing. So we are encouraged by that to see what the next several months bring in.
So of your 4 sections, traffic is the second largest. You've got
Yes.
like 20, pushing 30 employees.
Correct.
A third of those are listed as signal technicians.
Yes.
Is that what-
Yes.
Does that mean we have 9 people running around setting timing or on traffic signals?
So what we've got, Counselor, is roughly 8 or 9 people that handle all of our traffic signal preemptive maintenance. They also handle all of our street lighting repairs, and they handle all of our line locates. So what they are doing on a.
So they're not just adjusting
No,
the
sir.
timer in a traffic light?
Correct. They're doing that, they're doing those,
Preemptive maintenance.
Preemptive
Street
maintenance.
light repair and line location.
yes. And they're doing that reactive maintenance for all of the other things that come in that's not a part of the preemptive.
One other question about your kind of postage stamp slide up there. The upper right corner, 91% average for total service level agreement compliance. What does that mean?
That is 91% of what we do, people are in agreement that it met their expectations.
Oh, okay.
In general. And that still gives us room for improvement, and we are dialed in to get that room for improvement.
What's the biggest predictable thing on your group's horizon for the coming year?
The biggest predictable thing for my group, Counselor, is that every and any part of what we do is absolutely unpredictable. And we have got to be.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah, because we don't know where our next catastrophe is going to fall for the stuff that we do. So our group has to be agile, has to be prepared at a moment's notice, and have to be committed to the cause, because we do not know what tomorrow holds.
So given that unpredictability, is overtime a significant portion of your salaries and benefit budget?
It is, it is.
What portion would you estimate that is?
That I don't know for certain, Counselor. I can get that answer. I don't know exactly how much of our group's time is spent in overtime. I apologize for not having that information.
And so of these roughly 23 to 25 vacancies, how much money is that? I mean, if your salaries and benefits across the board are, you know, you're looking at just pushing 9 million, 8.9. If you're running at, call it 20% vacancy, does that mean whatever 20% of 8.9 is unspent?
I think that would be a fairly close number.
Okay.
Certainly.
Right.
I think that would be a fairly close number.
Okay.
Yes.
Selvin, Mr. Chair, how many of your staff members are like cross-trained in other areas? Like for instance, if I may be in traffic tech, but am I cross-trained in any other area if I desire to do so to be able to help in different areas?
So right now, Counselor, there's not many of our people that are cross-trained. That is one of the things that we are looking at on the horizon as to
Okay.
how we can do a better job at that cross-training.
Okay.
But we are also trying to be very mindful of how we work toward that.
Okay.
Cross-training is something that on its face, it sounds like a fantastic idea and everybody should do it.
Okay.
The reality is cross-training is a good idea and you should apply it where applicable. It's not to be applied across the board. Because there are certain things that we do that absolutely requires a level of expertise.
Okay.
It requires a focus and a time commitment that needs to be your single goal in order to deliver when necessary. So when I get a guy that has to go out at 2 o'clock in the morning because an entire signal cabinet has been run over by an aggressive citizen trying to get home, I do not need that guy second guessing any part of what needs to be done to get that signal back up and running.
Duly noted.
Can I ask a quick question? So, up there, just looking at a question and a comment, when you look at the top 5 categories for service requests, is that through 311 and other means, or where it says animal control is, you know, that's 5 or 6 times the next one, you know, that's
So-
there. Speak a little bit to that, but I think that also points out to us as we look at, and I said this to President Tyner earlier, as we look at the animal shelter and what we as a city are working with our partners on, that's a major deal that
We got
the city,
2,600.
that is unbelievable to me. That's 6 times almost the next one.
So-
I mean, that's,
So Counselor, I really appreciate that
I
question
mean,
because that gives me the opportunity to tell you that these numbers are not as big as they should be. These
Really?
are the numbers that are coming from our 311 call center.
but not from
They-
other means.
They do not reflect the
Wow.
calls that I get from
That many
Counselor
come
Tyner.
from me.
They do not reflect
I ain't
those calls.
lying.
They do not
He ain't
reflect
lying
the
either.
calls that come into Public Works
Right.
directly. And we are
That's
working
just
now.
311.
That's 311.
Wow.
That shows the impact of the.
And that's the
animal
data
shelter,
that,
right?
we are presenting this data
Wow.
because the 311 data is the most reliable.
Wow.
We are working on our end to do a better job of tracking and keeping up with that data that does not go through that profile.
So to not go too deep into this, I want to follow up with one other question though. When a call comes in, y'all go out, investigate it, the animal may be picked up, it may not be, it may be taken to Metro, I mean, probably it's going to the shelter, you know, whatever, but that's just phone calls that you have to go out and investigate.
Correct.
And as a 311, it stays in that log
Correct.
until it is completed. That's one thing that before I got on the council, and I tell constituents this all the time, I would have thought that it would be a cop out for me as your councilman to say, you need to call 311. But once I got here and you learn more about it, 311 is a great system
Fantastic.
of accountability where
Cannot say enough
logs,
about it.
it's logged in and it stays there
Cannot say
until
enough about
until
it.
it's completed, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, so those are That's a pretty good number of animal. I would have flunked that quiz if you'd asked somebody to
What was
ask,
that?
what was the number one category for service request? Wow, that's a lot.
And we
7
cannot say
calls a
enough
day.
about
Yeah.
the use of 311.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic tool that we use across the board. And Portia does a fantastic job, her and her staff, in executing those 311 services. We would be, the level of inefficiency that we would have to contend with without them, I hate to think about it.
Selman, one comment, Mr. Chairman, then I'm done. I do want to say thanks to you and your staff, because I can't think of a time that I, as a council person, have asked for help on something with a constituent or whatever it is. And I would say most of the time, within 24 hours, it's done, so.
I want to echo
And
that.
I really
That's right.
appreciate
Amen.
that, because
Amen.
I think it's good for our citizens to see us responsively responding to concerns, whatever that is. And I know you guys have really worked on a lot of these neighborhoods that have, in the storm drains, and some of the issues that we've had in some of the neighborhoods in District 3 were because something was clogged, as you and I know. And I really appreciate the hard work that you and your staff do to make sure that we're meeting these obligations to our citizens. I
I
appreciate that.
appreciate that, Counselor, and the mayor is not going to want me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Everything that you are seeing on the ground for what we are able to do, it stems directly from what his 4 core values are and what he sits around this meeting table every week and talk to his staff about what he expects out of us and out of our group. That gives me everything I need to go and deliver what you're talking about. We could not do it without that kind of support.
Well, for all the criticism that I guess we all get, Walt gets, y'all get, we're doing a lot of good things in this area and everywhere else too. But I mean, this is something that's tangible that people
That's
see
right.
and call about and follow up on, and they call, because they have a concern. And you guys are doing a good job of meeting that need. I just wanted to thank you.
I appreciate that.
I'm gonna follow up, if you just a second, about the calls, animal control, and yeah, I probably equal those numbers.
Half of them are at your house.
Exactly. Right.
There's no half of the animals.
No, my neighborhood, and other neighborhoods. Anyway, we went to the animal shelter Thursday, and it was great, great hour or so spent at the animal shelter for the council. It was really eye-opening, but we saw one dog particularly that was bigger than that screen, and I mean, I never seen such a dangerous pit. I don't know what it was. I mean, it was a dog, but it was humongous. So, do y'all have enough staff to handle all these calls? Are there need for you? Because there's situations where 3 people couldn't have handled that one particular dog, and also, are y'all are you satisfied with the trucks you guys have as far as hasn't what y'all need?
Yeah, I appreciate that concern, Counselor. That is an area where I will say, yes, we are adequately staffed and we are adequately equipped to service what we need. I say that with the one caveat of each one of you have the opportunity of reaching out to 311, looking at how our service of animal control is being handled, and if you see or feel like we should be doing more, then I would love to have that conversation to figure out how we get there. But for the level of service that we're providing now, which I do not feel is inadequate in any way, although we will be striving to make improvements, I think we are good in that category. We are fortunate. We have got a fantastic animal control supervisor. He has been with the city for a number of years, very capable, very people-oriented.
Is that Trent?
That's Trent.
Buddy, you're right.
And he has done a fantastic job in bringing 2 of our younger control officers alone, and they do work wonders with capturing these animals. I've gone out with them a few times just to watch how they do it, and it is phenomenal to see how they interact with these animals and the care that they take in doing it. It just, I cannot give them enough credit for how they handle it. So I can certainly appreciate that concern, but we're in good shape.
And I wondered because like this, remember that dog? That was the biggest dog I've ever seen in my life. He escaped Metro 3 times, I think. But I mean, his head was like this big, and it's so when you have. So I just wondered if you had the types of separation in trucks and things like you need, because at the same time, not far from him was a little poodle about this big, you know. So,
And that was pitiful.
and that was
That
sad,
was pretty dog.
very sad. We all left there depressed.
So Selvin,
Sad.
I actually could stay here for a while, but we are gonna need to get to some of the others. Is there a last point you want us to take away from your department for the upcoming?
Well, and if there's a last point, I would like to just reiterate our appreciation for the support of this body to put us where we are. And I appreciate the opportunity to walk you through kind of how we are doing things. I appreciate the question of what we kind of see as shortfalls that we may need to have a better handle on. As of now, there isn't anything that I have concerns about that rises to your level. I think we've got some things that we need to get a better handle on. We've got some areas of efficiencies that we can work on, and I'm happy to do those things before we go any further. But with that being said, if any of you all see different in any aspect of our service providing, please do not hesitate to let me know.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Eric, you up next?
Yes, sir.
Good, come on up.
Selvin set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, I know, right? Good morning, council.
Good morning.
So, before we get started, the dog that Mr. Tyner's referring to, is that the gray and white one? The pit bull at the animal shelter?
I think so.
I've seen that. That is the scariest dog I've ever
I
seen.
mean, you ain't lying. I mean, that was, I mean, yeah.
They needed the National Guard to get that one in.
Yeah, and they can't, you know, he's under that Emily's law right now too, so he's,
Yeah.
but how they handle like animal control and how Metro handles him to get him out of his cage, to clean the cage, well, I don't see how they do it.
No. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up here and talk to you guys today. Construction facility and grounds. We have 4 different divisions inside the department. Obviously, construction, facility maintenance, the landscape maintenance, and then we've got an admin group. The admin group consists of myself along with 3 other employees. We've got the ground side that has roughly 75. That's going to be our largest one. Craig Thorpe is over the ground side, or landscape maintenance. Tim Sullivan has moved from facility maintenance to construction in this past year. In construction, he has 2 other employees with him, and he handles the majority of the capital projects that you guys have already seen this year. And then Scott Yarbrough is our newest director, and he takes over for Tim in facility maintenance. And in facility maintenance, you have the maintenance techs, which are repairing everything that breaks. The warehouse, which has 3 employees and 120 square feet, 120,000 square feet, and then the custodians. Right now, we're running at 1 vacancy in facility maintenance. That's a maintenance tech, which comes off the board today. I've had a lot of interest in that job, and excited to see who we're going to be able to hire there. Grounds is the division that normally has the highest amount of turnover. We've got groundskeepers in there, and it's not an easy job in the summer to work outside in 100-degree heat. So that's the one where we see the most turnover, but right now we have 6 vacancies. We've promoted a lot of people up in that group. But one thing that we did do this year was we went back and reclassified it from crew worker to groundskeeper. When someone would apply with us for a crew worker position, it could have been anything under Mr. Green's department, to several other departments. And going through and being able to call it a groundskeeper, which didn't change any of the duties that we're asking them to do, really gives them an idea of what they're interviewing for. I know that the overtime question was asked to Mr. Green. The ground side doesn't really slow down a lot. You know, in the winter, you have a couple, you know, about a month and a half where things slow down considerably. But, you know, right now we're in the full swing of cutting grass, taking care of everything green that grows out there. The first football game is coming up this weekend. The guys will be out there at 5 a.m. Friday morning, working with Mr. Meggs' group and with Mr. Green's group. We're gonna have them out there blowing the streets off. The sweeper trucks are coming behind them, then the flusher trucks. We're pulling all the garbage bags on the strip and downtown to make sure that, you know, the city is as nice as it can be for everyone who's coming to town. And that happens Friday morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning, just to make sure that we're gonna meet the level that,
But those needs are relatively projectable, right, as
Correct.
opposed to selling, there's a
Correct, yeah.
storm, everybody out for the weekend.
well, correct. And on top of that, though, the tree crew is, you know, on the ground side, and if the wind blows too hard, sometimes, you know, something's gonna come down, whether it's a storm or not. We actually had a call out Sunday where a tree came down just from the wind. But, yeah, the only unpredictable, I guess, aspect of that is whatever the football schedule is in the home games. You know, but some of the bigger games, Texas, Georgia, you know, we're gonna see a lot more activity at the airport, where we also have the facility maintenance tech to make sure that everything's running smoothly, as well as custodians there. We have them stationed downtown as well, and then we have some that run around. So the budget did go down a little bit this year, and that is a result of us trying to do more work in-house. We've hired on several facility maintenance techs.
The budget did go down a
Well,
little bit this year?
our, part of the operational expense did go down, and that's gonna be a result of us, you know, trying to do more work in-house instead of using as many contractors. The budget went up overall, just due to salary, staff raises. But as far as what we're trying to do in-house, we wanna get away from having, you know, our guys go to a job and immediately start calling contractors. We wanna be able to go in and fix what we can. We're seeing a lot of that with a lot of the HVAC work we've got going on right now. Air conditioners are breaking left and right. I don't know if you remember last year, it seems like every week I was in front of you with another contractor we were trying to send out to go fix another air conditioner. We've built up the staff to a point where we can do a lot of that in-house.
So which, and it's not a facetious question, which category you point to is going down?
So the budget for the facility maintenance group went down a little bit.
So the 24 budget was
24 is 13.6.
13.8 million. The 25 proposal is 14.7.
And correct, and the majority of that is gonna be salaries. So the salaries went up, but as far as what we're paying contractors to do when we call them, it is going down.
Where is that, Eric? Does that show in what
The
we're,
decrease of
we're looking at
1
page
versus
73.
Correct.
74.
Is that decrease in facilities maintenance?
Decrease.
Correct.
Yeah.
176.
Okay, go ahead.
I know that you've seen a lot of the capital projects that we're undertaking right now. You know, looking forward to being able to complete as many of those and as quickly as possible. We've already gotten started on multiple projects. You know, again, whenever you guys call us on the weekends or at night, you know, everyone always starts with, "I hate to bother you." That's what we're here for. I think every department head feels that way.
Well, you know we don't mean it.
Well, yeah, the job never stops, you know. Just because it's 5 o'clock doesn't mean that, you know, everything's gonna magically keep working the way it should. Everything seems to break after hours anyway, so the guys are used to
Usually
it.
on Friday.
Friday afternoon, yeah, that's a big time for us, you know, Saturday mornings.
Mr. Busby.
Yeah.
Eric, looking at the top right, awarded contract amount to Tuscaloosa Bills members, I think this speaks, you know, people have asked, is Tuscaloosa Bills working? So this is a good showing and display.
So, yeah, so Tuscaloosa Builds is now in CFG, and it's
Yes.
The Tuscaloosa Business Opportunity Program. Ms. Drake moved over in July, and so, you know, that program sits with us now. You know, we've got some fabulous contractors out there and getting them, you know, I guess lined up so that they can get the work done. We've got several that work around City Hall routinely. Delano, which I know Mr. Lanier knows him, his group paints on us. They do fantastic work. There's nothing else you can say about it. They show up, they get it done quickly, and it looks amazing when they're finished. We've got several other ones that we have on do not exceed contracts. That's the reason why you don't see us up here, you know, presenting each week what they're doing, because they are working. We've got guys that are doing pressure washing around here. We've got a fabulous HVAC gentleman who's helped us out numerous times. So, you know, we're excited about that program and looking to see that number go up.
Thank you.
Eric, when you talked about your 4 separate sections, your grounds, your, what do you call it?
The grounds division.
Ground, that, you know, that's your infantry, right? You got 75, wasn't it?
Correct.
75 in there, and you said you only ran about, I think you said 6 vacancies, which I think
Right.
is great.
So right now, this is the closest to being fully staffed that we've been, you know, since I moved over here.
Okay,
last
so,
July.
but when you expand from that 75 to you're closer to 130, 129, 129 is what you're authorized,
Correct, that's what we're budgeted for.
and what do you run on average?
Usually it's about a 10% deficiency, so,
Okay,
or
so you're,
vacancy.
that's not 12 or 13 off, you're averaging 117, 18 bodies showing up for work on a normal month?
Close to that. So right now, the one vacancy we have in facility maintenance, that one's fairly rare.
Uh-huh.
But typically, just with the work that we're doing on the ground side, same custodial's fully staffed right now, and it has been for several months. But on the ground side, it's hard to find people that, you know, are gonna go out and, you know, cut grass in 100-degree weather. It's just the reality of it. So that's where we see the highest turnover, but we're also able to get them in, get some of those guys trained, and be able to promote them.
So, kind of segueing off the cutting grass in the summer, you cover around 2,000 acres of parkland?
So that's
Does that include,
right away.
is that right, that's okay, of ground maintenance?
Right.
Do you have any, and you may not, do you know what, do you have any sense of what portion of that is parks and what's roadways and?
I would have to go look at it, you know, so we are picking up some parks that we've got multiple parks that we're doing a lot of improvements to. I would have to go back, I can get you that number.
Just which parks are you maintaining?
So right now, we've got Snow Hinton Park, which is, you know, coming up to finish construction here soon. Calton Park, you know, is hoping to finish construction here very soon as well. Springbrook, Burrell Odom, we're not taking over, we're doing the maintenance at JC Park as well. Then you've got the Riverwalks, Western Riverwalk, which is open in Mr. Wilson's district, the original Riverwalk, the Northern Riverwalk, and then Shelby Park, Government Plaza. There are parks,
There's,
Beach Hills.
there's, huh?
There's
There's 10.
open space.
Since 2020, I think beginning fiscal '24.
Some work going
Still
on.
showering
We've taken over 200. Since fiscal '24, according to Paris numbers as submitted to accounting and finance, we've taken over $200,000 worth of park maintenance from Para.
That's all right.
So, and we this year incorporated that into the overall agency funding metrics by which we fund.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that was it. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I didn't mean we were unsatiated, I just didn't want to cut you off short on anything. Gentlemen, any other comments or questions on?
I just, Eric took me on a tour of Snow Hinton Park the other day, and y'all, I'm excited about that. I know Kip's completely responsible for all that. But, I'm excited about it.
It's gonna look amazing when it opens.
Eric, I apologize if you said this, because I had to step out. but you've got 129 budgeted positions. How is your actual count?
So
Around
we're
117.
Yes.
Okay,
so right now we've got
10% down?
Yeah.
90% is good.
right now we've got one vacancy in facility maintenance, which it actually closes at 5 o'clock today. We've got some pretty good candidates we're excited to interview. Again, the landscape side, it's just difficult to keep 100% there, but we've got some good ones over there. We're trying
He's
to
only
move up.
short 6 out of 75 right now.
Pretty good.
That's right,
But
right?
You've got a really, really good responsible group, and again, I want to thank you for what you do.
So
City.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to thank him for what he and his group, his team, what his team does.
Last question, Eric, and I don't quite know how to ask it, I'm not sure. Some things move, you increase workload, and the dial that you have to turn to increase the ability to workload moves very smoothly correlated with that. Other things, you increase workload, but to turn the dial for the capability of that, it moves in, it's not onesies, twosies, it's nothing, boom, 14. Are grounds like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's with a staff of 75, you're able to pull some staff off if you need to and move them to
Yeah,
where you need
you
to.
can, you've got some flex, you can absorb some, even if it goes down, you can keep people busy. But if it's increasing continually, at some point, you've got to, those ads that you have to make are not smooth, they're big jump, boom, more equipment, another whole shift, etc.
Well, yeah, so that is true to a degree, but we know that the grass grows in the spring and summer. So yeah, it's easy to make sure the guys are geared up and ready for that. One of the things.
No, I'm talking about if you're adding acreage, for example,
Mhm.
adding requirement.
Well, we did add new positions this year because of the parks we're taking, or we're going to start maintaining because of Elevate, and we're excited about that. Getting guys out there who are very concerned and have ownership in how the parks look is important. You want someone out there who's who feels responsibility and feels honor when people go and see a park that they're maintaining. To Mr. Fell's point, Snow Hen Park's going to look amazing. The supervisor was out there the other day, and that's his baby. He's going to be out there every single day and with his guys making sure that 40 acres is looking as pristine as possible.
Thank you very much. I appreciate what your
Thank
crowd does.
Thank you, Eric.
I see them regularly out at who we got up next, Rich?
Sir.
Let's take a 5-minute break if we could. Can I have a motion for a 5-minute break?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
5-minute break. Back in session. Dr. Rush, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Can we have a motion to reconvene?
Motion.
Second, you made that one, didn't you?
All in favor, say aye.
Well, first of all, thank you all for
I'm gonna check Robert's rules or whoever. I don't think you have to have you can't have a motion to reconvene because you're not in session.
I voted no.
Anyway, Dr. Rush, welcome.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you all for having me and for listening to me help promote strategic communications of the city. So our goal, we are a very unique department where we work with both internal and external stakeholders. So there's almost 20 departments at the city. We work with each department to say, okay, what do we need to be promoting both internally to the employees and externally to the citizens? So right now, other than just the cost of living increases, we are level funded. So it's going to look a lot like last year, but I'm just going to go through it and answer any questions that you all have.
You added a deputy. Was that a
So-
new add or a replacement?
So it was a replacement. So we have never had that position before, and we took a communication specialist position, and we're able to use the salary dollars from that with a small delta to create a deputy position. So really excited to have Doug on board, but we were able to use current salary for a large chunk of that.
Where did the small delta come from?
Small delta actually came from our budget, yes, sir. So we were able to pull it out of some savings that we had and some outside services and kind of hopefully move some things around, yes, sir. So right now, we are level funded. Our department is made up of 18 employees across 5 divisions. So there's 311, which we talked about a good bit in here. There's marketing, PR, AV, and web. And so there are 7 employees on the 311 side and 11 on mixed within the other 4 divisions. So it pretty much breaks down where marketing's got roughly 2 people in it. It's PR's got 2 people in it, AV's got 2 people, web's got 2 people, and then myself and a deputy and an executive secretary. So I gave you all a brag sheet on StratCom. So if y'all are okay, I would love to just, and we don't have to go through that. I've got some other stats that I would just like to kind of read and just promote everything that our team is doing because they are doing an amazing job. So just this past year, we have increased our production of press releases by over 55%. So our PR team is out there putting out good things about the city. We are answering questions. We are communicating with employees. We are communicating with citizens. We launched the city's first road construction campaign this year, and that has been an incredible success. So I know that Councilor Crowe has hopefully received less phone calls and texts because of the way that we've been communicating about McWright's Ferry Road. So that initiative will only grow where we will be communicating about other construction projects. That was a test trial. It has gone, knock on wood, pretty seamless. So on as far as social media goes, on Instagram, we're up 14% of followers. Facebook, we're up 11%. For arts and entertainment, we successfully launched the Mercedes brand and the new communication around the Mercedes Amphitheater. As far as events go, and this goes into the shared responsibility that the mayor talks about a lot, between ourselves and the arts and entertainment department, every single event that we have put on this year, we have beat the attendance records from previous years. So that is us promoting it, us letting the community know about it, and then Kay and her team doing an amazing job of actually facilitating the event. So that's one that I really like. As far as AV goes, thanks to Tyler and his team, we have streamed over 254 public meetings, encompassing 7,874 streamed minutes, where 251,552 minutes were viewed by members of the community. So we are streaming a lot of content, and not just that, there's a lot of people that are seeing it. You're talking about 251,000 people have viewed our live streams over the past year. So we are reaching community members and making a difference. So that is, right now we do not have any vacancies, so we are full. A need that we do have that I'm not asking for it right now, but on our graphic design, we have one graphic designer that is busting his tail and trying to do graphic design for every single department and every single initiative and every marketing campaign that you guys see. And he is wearing it out, but he's still down there helping us out. So we don't have any vacancies. Right now, we're working with every one of the different departments in the city. So we are working with the police and fire. Well, I'm sorry, I pointed back there as if Chief was still back there.
Congratulations.
So, Trick, you just got an upgrade.
We got a lot of faith in you. We'll get you your white uniform, Bruce. Your white
That's right.
uniform.
That's right. So we are working with police and fire. We are working with HR. We are working with ESD. We're working with Eric Thompson and his team to do some major.
I'm waiting to hear the council.
The council, we are working with the council, yes, sir, absolutely. You know, and it was funny, because this is another statistic about 311 that I didn't mention until this part, because I thought Selvin was gonna be in here and I was gonna kind of joke around with him, but he probably doesn't like these stats, but last year, 311 received over 66,000 calls, which turned into 39,000 service requests entered. So 39,000 service requests entered between Eric and Selvin's team, roughly. I mean, there are other teams involved, water, sewer, definitely. But, I'm sorry, that's where Kimberly always sits. You just kind of realize where everybody sits in here. But that's a lot that the city's doing for the community
And may I
every single day.
Once a month, we go through what's called the service response time. So we know, we go through each one to see what is our service response time, what should be our standard service response time, and then if there's any overages or under, hopefully we want to be under the service response time norm. And so that data is used to judge our efficiency and effectiveness of service delivery. And that data would not be created if it wasn't for the good work of Portia McBride and 311. So that's our scoreboard of how well we're responding.
That's a lot of calls for 7 people.
That's a ton of calls. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but the service request orders is our game day.
Yep.
How we respond, how quickly we're responding. It helps us pick up on equipment needs, pothole. I mean, you can go across the standard to see what we need to do to be better. So, but it begins with what 311 does. And the thing that impresses me is when we do have low call volumes, they actually call you back
Yeah.
to see if we solved your problem.
I had a constituent say that happened, and they were thrilled to death that happened.
Very proud of Richard and the 311 team.
I bet I've got a couple of neighbors who the operators know their number by heart.
Yeah, first and last name.
I bet you they do too.
Yes, sir.
But you know what? That's what they pay taxes for.
That's right.
That's their service.
And it helps my district.
No, you're right. Yes, so well, and so speaking of 311, Portia actually took 311 on to be the first certified 311 in the state this year. So they went through a customer service training, became the first certified 311 in the state. So that's a huge thing also. So
Who certifies?
it is a national group. I think they're based out of Mississippi. I can't remember the name, but I can find it for you.
And it's a municipal
Yes, sir.
response type organization, is that what it is?
Yes, sir, that's exactly what they do. And so they focus on customer service specifically related to any customer service reps that are taking phone calls. And so 311 fell right into that. Portia found it, put it into place. I gave her the green light, and they were able to get certified. So, and that's a yearly thing. So, are there any specific questions that you guys have?
I do.
Okay.
I love your commercials. And,
Okay.
I'm running everything y'all got on my show,
Yes, sir.
of course, for free.
Sure.
And
I'm glad to hear the city's not paying you for it.
I would love that, but no. That would get me in big trouble.
We want to serve people and not time.
That's exactly right. But we get such great response from it,
Sure.
from our viewers. But who writes those and who does those? Because they're really clever.
Well, thank you so much. Actually, Kevin Lake in our department writes the majority of the scripts. So Kevin writes the majority of the scripts. He comes up with the ideas behind it, and then he works with. So we don't have in our outside services. Actually, a chunk that comes out of that is for video photography assets. We don't have a photographer or videographer on staff that can produce professional quality work yet. we're working on it, we're starting to get the equipment, but we don't have it yet. And so there are 2 or 3 vendors in town that we work with to help us produce what Kevin creates.
But you write them.
Yes, sir. And so no, Kevin does a fantastic job.
He
I
really
think
does.
especially the 311 commercials. A lot of
They've
people
been great.
loved those. I love the concept behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't get enough of the pony.
Yeah, you know, and so it is. It's Kevin, you know, and he's working with everybody on our team, of course. But he is kind of the script guy as far as our team goes.
In the near future, we are gonna take the savings from the contract changeover from Red Mountain and bring in, the marketing portion in-house, and Kay is working with Richard's team for a proposal. We're excited about that. We think we have a niche in the market. And so we'll have more details coming in the future about that as well. So we think there's some opportunities to work with, Danny Wimmer Productions
Yes,
and do some really cool things.
You know, I think that's going to be a very exciting thing for the team, being able to bring that in, especially I think even as far as if you're looking at saving dollars and cents, because right now you all let me work with the different departments and bring the marketing budget in, bring the public education budget in, and we were able to take those dollars, put them together, talk to Lamar, and say rather than giving us $5,000 contracts throughout the year, we need $70,000. And we'll mix up the billboards as is. Whatever we need right now, and it's real time, we can change those. We will be able to bring in the monies that were spent on the marketing for the AMP as well, and put that in so that we're making it buy. It's just buying in bulk. We're getting twice as much for half the amount, and then I'm just mentioning like Lamar as one, but companies like that are much more likely to say, hey, if you have any kind of PSAs that you need to put out, we can give you some free space because you're helping us out on this. You're buying much more in bulk. So I think it's going to be much better just all around. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask a couple questions, but you were talking about the public education, but you were
Sure.
talking a little bit about that, but give me some examples of that, Richard, but then also the $100,000 for recruitment, is that part of the money for police officers, or is that just
That
police
is.
officers, and also is it just police, or could it be like other positions we're talking about?
So that is specifically police and fire, like the public safety.
Police and fire, public
Yes,
safety.
sir. So for example, let me see.
Yes, sir. And then outside services, I mean, you were talking a little bit about that.
Sure.
What are some examples for the $160,000? What are we spending that money for?
You know, actually, we can just walk through these. This might just be the easiest way to do it right here. We've got some packets, in case you all ask. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind handing those out. And then we can just kind of walk through. So the specific budget, if you look at my budget as a whole, the only things that are really variables in there are the public education, the outside services, the marketing budget, and the public safety. So you asked about the public education first, so we can just kind of step through that one if that's okay. So on the public education side, we've used that money, anything that is educating the community on things that the city is doing. A lot of times it's smaller events that are more of a community service type aspect to them, such as Lake Cleanup Day, right? So we are promoting it, we are educating the community on the natural resources that we have and help us come and keep our lakes beautiful, okay? Household Hazardous Waste Day, that's another one where it is more along the lines of a PSA type thing. We are helping you as a community member to know that if you have household hazardous waste, that one, we're about to move, well, I don't want to make promises, but hopefully we'll move to two days a year where you can actually bring that hazardous waste material to us and we will take it and dispose of it correctly, right? And then, so we are working, some of that, or a chunk of that comes out of environmental services. So we work with Chris Meggs and his team to promote, okay, we need everybody to sort their recycling. That will help our teams out so much. If you have ever had the opportunity to go with one of our recycling routes, those guys work incredibly hard. And they take a bin and then they have to sort it, and it takes a certain amount of time. If we can encourage our community members to have it sorted in the bucket for them, man, they can just move through that 10 times faster, right? or towards, at the beginning of the summer, we need to encourage our community members to, hey, if you can just help us to bag your grass clippings, it'll help our trucks to move faster. We'll provide better service. It is a lot of PSA type things that comes out of the public education. There is also a little bit of public safety mixed in there. That is, these are things that the police or firemen are doing, or events that they are having. Popsicles with kids, that's an event that they have, where it's more on the PSA side. But that's the breakdown of specifically how the public education dollars were spent. So
Where does, like the traffic stuff, where does that come out of in Roxbury Road?
So that is actually a little bit is coming out of our outside services right now. So that is coming out of that line item because we have not added a line item, or this year did not have a line item for McWright's Ferry. So we had to use dollars that we had to actually promote McWright's Ferry.
Who is doing it? Who's Granicus?
Granicus is a website building platform. So the lion's share of our outside services is actually web services. So it is hosting websites, it is building websites, it's adding plugins to the back end so that it does things. It is Site Improve is a specific software that we have that ensures that our websites are ADA compliant. So it is a lot of web stuff, some software stuff, and then we've got some media buys that we pulled out of that for McWright's Ferry and a couple of special projects. And then we have the photography, video.
Who's nine is, Richard? Who's that?
Sir?
Nine is a
is.
website.
Nine
Is that a
is
website too?
Is a web hosting. Yes, sir. Those are web hosting dollars.
While we're at it, who's George Edmondson?
George Edmondson owns Seed Creative. He's a videographer here in town.
Send me a Facebook request.
Okay.
I
Yes,
just
sir.
decided-
Yeah. So no, he does amazing video work. Yes, sir.
Richard, one
Yeah.
thing, I know you and I talked briefly about this one day. I would love to, we have stuff on our website that says who we are as council people, whether, because council people come and go.
Yes, sir.
I would love to see something that would be linked with our website to the city. It's either, I don't want to say a newsletter, but maybe by district.
Okay.
That we have an opportunity with y'all's help and us to kind of say, these are the things that are happening in the district, or further information about projects or everything, so people kind of know
I think that
what is happening in our districts. I don't know how we could fund that or as a landing spot, I think, because I know we've had inserts in the past, like with things that are going on in a water bill, but if we do that, I don't remember how much that costs. It's gotta be more cost effective. Maybe to have something on the website where residents of District 3, for example, could come and look and see that we're having these things, or even we're having a community meeting coming up, or we're having all these just informational type stuff.
I think that is a great idea. Let me get with Carly and Scott and see how that would look, how it should look, and then the best way to fund that. And we can do it, because as far as getting your messaging out, that would be, a huge cost savings.
I want a podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can do that.
There you go.
Listen, you got president time. You got the president. Who knows he's the chief.
I think that would
Busby
actually.
minute. So, Richard, I'm not limited to a minute. Richard, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I do have the deputy position.
Yes, sir.
Since that was created sort of on the fly, I assume something's coming to council in terms of the job classification and all the stuff that makes that.
So that job was already created, it was just never filled.
Okay.
And
The
so you got,
position,
yes, sir.
the position was already.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Good. The other one was, and actually, the last thing I had was what you just said. Give some thought to how Stratcom can give some love to council. We got a lot of people that we need communications with, and we certainly need some advice on how to do it.
Sure, love to. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Richard.
So, gentlemen, I think Mr. Crowe and I both have 11 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.